happening on a Wednesday morning here on the Roast on 95.7 The Game. Good morning to everybody out there getting off their graveyard shift. You know, the overnight dancers. Good morning to you. Teachers, cops, longshoremen, police officers, highway patrolmen, muni, janitors, garbage men. Dwayne Fontana's out there. I see you. Where's Bay Rob been at? I haven't heard from Bay Rob in a while. I was thinking about him the other day. I heard him on Strandy and Goo a couple weeks ago. I said, man, Bay Rob, where's he been at? Is he doing the Uber Eats? Cell phone going out? Calling us back? Remember those days?
I do.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out to YouTube and Twitch, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Comcast Business Text Line 888-957-9570 is the phone number. Niners and Cowboys. Where's the juices in the world? Where's the Rob and San Bruno's? This is huge here. Let's get to Dave Flemming on the roast. He joins us every single week, and I think this is the last time we're doing it this season. Maybe we'll get some one-offs during the season, but Flem, man, it's been a wild ride this year, 2023. It's good to have you back on. We're going to get to the Giants, but I want to start here with you because you're from the community. You know about this community. You live here in the heart of this city. Niners and Cowboys. What does that mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot to me. I remember all those battles that those teams had back, when I was first coming to the Bay Area. I mean, I've been here a long time now, and some of the greatest 49ers Cowboys games ever were when I was first here. And, I grew up in Washington, D.C., so my team would battle with the Cowboys, too. The Cowboys are the marquee franchise in the NFL, and this is a big game. I'm excited to watch it, and the Niners are going to beat them because they're better. So
I like that. Dave, yesterday was a tough day for me as a Giants fan. I'm watching the Farhan Zaidi press conference, or I guess scrum. I don't even know what you would describe it because he wasn't sitting at a desk or anything like that. And then the backdrop of baseball in the playoffs being played, and I'm watching just fan bases lose their minds. And I'm thinking about that last Posey home run against the Dodgers, game 1, that Friday night. And I miss playoff baseball so much. And I know this community misses playoff baseball so much. And just yesterday, and this is just my opinion, I have a hard time thinking we're going to get back there with this guy. Why should I believe in the Giants' direction right now? Like, what has you feeling optimistic? I know it feels low right now, and they're going through changes, and they want to make moves, but you are a part of this team. Why do you feel confident they're going to make the right moves here this offseason to get themselves back in position?
Well, I think you should feel confident, first of all. I do, because for everything that went wrong this year, and I mean, not literally every single thing went wrong, but almost. I mean, it felt like that at times, like what the expectation level was. The minor league system was choppy, although it had a good year overall. It still wasn't, it wasn't perfect. Injuries, all that stuff. Through all of it, they still had a chance right down to the end. And I think if you take a good hard look at this roster and how it's built, they are one or two. Now, I'm not saying that you snap your fingers and come up with one of these, but they are one or two impact players away from being a really good team. I mean, I think the only thing that's keeping the Giants from being not just a playoff team, but a real contender is having Wilmer Flores and Mike Yastrzemski and, pick one more, Tyro Estrada, have those be your 4th, 5th, and 6th best players as opposed to your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And if you can get a couple of those impact guys, this is a team that has all the depth you need, has the setup to be a winning franchise. And that's a big hurdle. You got to get those guys, but to me, it's pretty simple what needs to happen on this team, and if they can do that, they can get there.
Yeah, they definitely spent the money last year, but a lot of that money they spent didn't pan out for them. Mitch Haniger had a lost year. Michael Conforto got beat up after the second half or after the All-Star break. Minai didn't come on until basically September, and he had a couple moments throughout the season, but overall wasn't good. Ross Stripling as well. So we'll see how they spend that money next season here. But are they just what you said, one or two players away? Are we overrating? I want to go to the pitching because it seems I heard Farhan yesterday, and I was there, and hearing him talk about the starting pitching depth, and I'm not sure if I'm believing in it because that was the talk before the season. And then you end the season with basically 1.5 starting pitchers, if not just one starting pitcher. Are we overrated to starting pitching depth, or are we missing something here on the roast, Flemming?
No, I think that comment has been misinterpreted, because I think what he was saying was we have plenty of sort of back end starting rotation type pitchers. We have plenty of depth to fill out the rotation, but they're 100% the Giants are going to make a very strong, aggressive bid for this Japanese pitcher Yamamoto. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Good.
They're going to go for him hard. And it could be, he had such an amazing year in Japan. He pitched 2 no-hitters. He's going to win their version of the Cy Young Award for the 3rd straight time. He's become one of the best pitchers in the world, and he's only 25. And in a weird way, because the Giants were so ahead of the curve on this guy, I mean, they were in on him 2 years ago. They've been scouting him hard. They've been planning to make a bid for him for a long time. And in a way, they're getting hurt by the fact that he's just exploded, and there's going to be intense competition for him. That probably if you'd asked me 2 months ago, I would have said the Giants were the favorites to land this guy, and I don't know that anybody knows who the favorites would be now, because I think it could get a little goofy with how much money this guy's going to get paid. Anyway, that's a rambling way of saying the Giants are not eschewing the idea of an impact starter type. I think all they're doing is saying we got plenty of depth pieces. We got plenty of guys in the category of some of those names you rattled off, but even more importantly, Keaton Wynn and Tristan Beck, and this guy Carson Wisenhunt, who they think has a chance to beat it. They have a lot of those kind of guys, and so they can concentrate their high-end efforts on pitching and position players, but they don't need...
We break it up a little bit. Break it up a little bit, Flem. Let's put you on hold and get you back on here. The Giants, look, they're at the point you could throw all the names out. I think Flem agrees with this in this sense. It's all about that action, boss, as Marshawn Lynch would say. Until we see it, we will not believe it. Go ahead, Flem. We're back on the air. Do you agree with that? Like, if Giants fans, a lot of Giants fans have said, oh, boy, here comes another name. Here comes another name. Could already see the messages or whatnot. At this point, it's about the actions, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, at some point, you do have to get the guy you're talking about, and whether that's one specific player or just any impact kind of player, because there's several that the Giants are going to target this offseason and go after hard. But you're right. At some point, you do have to close. And I think, one of the interesting things about yesterday was how Farhan talked about the manager being an important part of that and trying to find the right manager who can be a part of that. And so I think that tells you that they're lining up to try to have a little more success when they take these big swings. I mean, they've tried hard. The stuff they did for Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa was, they pulled out all the stops. They did whatever they could do to get those guys to sign here. So it's not that they are disingenuous when they say that's their goal. But you're right. At some point, you got to say, forget talking about it. Show us, do it, and that's fair.
What's your preference for a manager? Are you looking for someone with more experience? Are you looking for someone who's like a bench coach right now? Someone from the organization's past, from outside the organization? Like, I want Will Venable, right? I'd like to see them interview him and get a feel for him. He's a role player for a long, long time. He's got local ties. He's been Bochy's right-hand man. He obviously understands the analytical data stuff. What are you looking for in a manager, Dave?
Well, I don't have an archetype like in mind. I don't have like, oh, it has to be this or it has to be that. I mean, I think some of the names you've heard tossed around there, if some of those, if Bob Melvin or Craig Counsell is available, I think those, it's hard to argue with the track record of those two guys. Like, to me, track record does matter. Managers who've shown that they can do it with different teams and get results, that's a pretty powerful argument to me. So I think if those two guys are available, they would be high on my personal list, just because I think you can't go wrong with a guy can do it. But I think that there is an argument to be made that a younger candidate could also fit well. I think the coaching staff would then have to reflect that. You'd have to, make sure you brought in some experienced coaches if you had a younger, less experienced manager. I'll give you a name. Can I give you a name?
I'd love it.
Here's somebody I hope they call. I hope they call Nick Hundley. You remember Nick?
Oh, yeah. Padre.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think Nick Hundley is a very good managerial candidate. He spent the last 2 or 3 years. He was in the MLB office for a year and a half or 2 years, and then just this last year joined the Texas Rangers front office. Chris Young brought him in to be a assistant GM. Extremely well-respected player, extraordinarily prepared as a player. Wasn't the most talented player, but had a great career, very well-liked catcher. I think it's not a coincidence that so many great managers are catchers. I think they just have a training as a player that lends itself to being a manager. I think he'd be on my list if I were coming up with a list.
No doubt. Dave Flemming here on the Morning Rush on 95.7 The Game. I've got to ask you about this one real quick, and we'll get back to what you just said there, Flem. But what do you say to the people that say it wasn't Kapler's fault and that was Farhan's fault with everything that went awry in 2023?
Well, it was also the players' fault too. And I say that, being close with a lot of those players and really enjoying being around this team. The players did not perform, and a lot of players performed way below what you would expect they would. So, if you want to blame front office people or coaches or managers for that, you can. But I would caution against putting too much of the blame away from probably where most of it lies. Like, players did not play well, period. So, was it all one of those guys' fault? It was not.
Right.
Is Gabe Kapler partially to blame? Yeah, I think he would come on your show right now and say yes.
Yep.
I do. I think there's a lot of blame to go around. The most incriminating thing about the whole year was, despite all of the frustrations of the season, and there were a lot of them for everybody, those last 2 weeks, the Giants still were in a position where, after that second to last homestand, they were in a playoff spot, right? They had moved back into that third playoff spot, and they went on that road trip to Colorado and Arizona, and could not have played worse, looked less engaged and motivated to make a playoff push. That was the most damning week of the year. Like, through all of it, they still had a great chance, and that effort was not good enough. So whoever is to blame for that, I would, if I were in charge of this franchise, I would have watched that week of baseball and been very, very unhappy. And I think, as much as anything, that led to the move to make a change, because I don't think that was up to the standard of Giants baseball. The way that team played that week was not good enough. It just wasn't.
When the Niners are struggling, I kind of know the chain of command, right? It's Lynch and Shanahan up to Jed York, right? That's where the buck stops. When the Warriors are struggling, it was Bob Myers. Now it's Dunleavy, and the buck stops at Joe Lacob. I heard Farhan reference the board multiple times yesterday. Who is on this board? Who is he reporting to? Where does the buck stop? I think the ambiguity of ownership right now is tough for fans to understand. So can you give us an idea of who he reports to?
Yeah, it is time. It is a little tough, and it's probably always going to be tough the way the Giants are structured. They're just not this is not a family-owned team. This is a team that's ownership group is massive. And so it does complicate things. So, I don't know the entire board, but I think it's been publicly disclosed. I think the main executive board is Greg Johnson, Rob Dean, and Buster Posey. And, obviously Larry Baer is a big part of this franchise, but I could be wrong. I don't believe he's on the executive board. So I think essentially that's who Farhan reports to. And so I think that's the chain of command, if that's the word you're using. I think it's essentially that those few individuals represent the ownership group and then they, they'll, the way it's always structured is if there's a big decision to be made, the whole ownership group does get looped in at some point. I mean, they have a big call or whatever. That's just the way it's always going to be in this franchise. And that's okay. They've won world championships with that setup. But that's essentially what he's talking about.
Man, I do like the fact that Buster Posey's getting more and more involved in this organization. That makes me feel good. Flem, you made us feel good all season long. You joined us every single week. You had to put up with our gibberish here on the roast, man. We thank you for it as always. What is this, year 2 or year 3 or whatnot? I'm losing count. I'm getting old and old. Where you at this weekend as we finish this up, and hopefully we catch up during the all season with you? Where you at this weekend?
Well, and I appreciate you guys putting up with me and my weird schedule and my bad cell phone connections and my kids getting in and out of the car and yelling at me while we're on the air and all the stuff that you guys have put up with. So I appreciate that. I am going to the Coliseum this weekend. I have Caleb Williams and USC on Saturday night.
Wow. Doesn't even matter who they play.
Yeah.
It's just Caleb Williams.
Have fun.
Have fun.
He's really, back. I mean, I've dug in a little bit this week, and Caleb Williams is really special. Like, he's gotten better from last year. He's a better player now than he was. Guy's got a chance to be a true, all NFL is so context dependent, but he's got a chance to be an all-time great. We were doing a fun, you can have me on later in the season if you guys are having a quiet day or something. Our crew, we were doing a fun little, it's the last year of the Pac-12. Caleb Williams is a Heisman winner, like the all-time great Pac-12 quarterbacks going back. And we had a spirited little debate about it. It was a fun sports topic.
There's been a lot of great Pac-12 quarterbacks. Jim Plunkett,
it's hard to
Ryan, Ryan.
Yeah, the idea was sort of like a Mount Rushmore. It's really hard to get to 4. It's hard. Hard.
Aaron Rodgers, Carson Palmer.
Yeah, all those
Mark
USC
Sanchez.
guys. No doubt. Andre Ware, I believe. USC back in the... Wow, that's a
Andre
tough
Ware.
one.
Warren Moon was a...
Warren Moon, Washington.
Yeah, Washington.
Troy Aikman, UCLA.
Marcus Tuiasosopa.
Yeah. Mark
Andrew
Brunell.
Walters.
What about Mark Brunell and Billy Joe Hobart, Washington? All right, we can go on and on and on.
We're dorks.
I want in on this conversation, Flip. Bring us to whatever.
Longshore.
We want in there. Yeah, Nate Longshore. All right, Flip. Good stuff, man. We'll be listening. We'll be watching because we love Caleb. So have a good call Saturday night. And thank you for everything.
Have me on anytime, guys. We'll talk some more ball.
Absolutely. Dave Flemming here on the
Okay.
Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game, giving his thoughts on what happened with the San Francisco Giants. Let's get right back into Niners because I know the Farhan stuff, the